and welcome to episode 56, I believe, of the Giddy Knits Podcast. As always, I am Helen, and I'm coming to you from Dundee in Scotland, where I live with my husband Tom and my two boys, Arthur, who is 6, and Jasper, who is 3. Today is Saturday the 18th of April, not a date I should forget, because today is actually mine and Tom's 11th wedding anniversary. 11 years. We will be celebrating, as we probably always would be doing anyway, regardless of lockdown, by having a takeaway and a bottle of Prosecco, I think we've got for tonight, but usually we have a bottle of something fizzy. So pretty standard anniversary takeaway with young kids for us. Welcome back to everyone who has watched before, and hello to anyone that is watching for the first time. Thank you so much for coming and checking out my podcast. I am the dyer behind Giddy Yarns. It's always a good place to start, and you can find me on Instagram as either Giddy Yarns or as Giddy Helen. With Giddy Helen's my more personal account, and I share more personal stuff over there rather than it just being work related. And you can find my yarn on my website, which is giddyyarns.com. We also have a Ravelry group for the podcast. I will link all of that down below. Come and chat and come and say hello over there. This feels a little bit erratic, and I can't remember whether I've said everything that I would usually say for an introduction. This is a knitting podcast. Did I say that? If you're back, you've kind of got the sense of that, hopefully. Anyway, so what have I got for you this week? I will start with a couple of little quick announcements. I've got a couple of little finished objects to share with you, and then I'm going to share 2 works in progress, although they might also both be new. No, one of them's a work in progress and one of them is a new cast on. I might also share, we'll see how the time's going, but I might also share a little bit of future plans. I don't have any yarny goodness to share this week, and shop news wise, I'll touch on a little bit of shop news at the end, but it won't be a lot, basically. So let's start with the announcements. The announcements are just the same as they have been for the last few weeks. Just a quick reminder that we have got 2 knit-alongs running in the Ravelry group. The first one is the Giddy Yarns Cal, which is a new ongoing continuous knit-along. So any project that uses at least 50% Giddy Yarns and that's been finished this year will count towards prizes. I'll be drawing quarterly prizes. So the first quarter, I put a post in after the first quarter, just saying that posts after this would be counted in the second quarter, not the first quarter. So basically the first quarter has closed, but you can still keep adding posts, and it doesn't matter if you completed those items in the first quarter or not. It doesn't matter. As long as they've been completed this year, they can count throughout the whole year, basically. And I will be drawing quarterly prizes, as I said. So the next prize draw will be April, May, end of June, I guess. Get your finished objects or whatever over into the thread. We've also got a chatter thread over there, so if you're working on anything using my yarn, then feel free to come into the chatter group and the chatter thread. Feel free to come into the Ravelry group chatter thread and discuss your progress and show me what you're working on. I love seeing what people are working on with my yarn. And then we have another one, which is the 20th Century History Cal, and I have extended the deadline for that until the end of May. Any project that you're working on that you can link back to something to do with 20th century history is eligible to enter in that one as well. Like anything that's themed around a film that was released in the 20th century, a book, anything like that. I mean, we've got a couple of projects in there so far. We've had a pair of socks that was kind of suffragette inspired. We've got a shawl that uses my Sea of Adventure colourway, which was a book by Enid Blyton that was released in the 1940s. So anything, any link, and however tenuous, then it absolutely counts. You've got until the end of May to get your finished objects into that thread. And we have got a couple of pattern prizes, which I will link down below. And I will also be doing some yarny prizes as well. Yeah, that's all the announcements, I think. So, shall we move on then to finished objects? I have a couple of little finished objects to share with you, which is unsurprising considering that a lot of the projects I've been working on have been little projects. But the first finished object I have is my country garden mitts. So I will pop the other one on the other hand if I can. But these were a lovely quick little project. They are a pattern by Ellie of Craft House Magic. It's available either in Ravelry or on her website, which is crafthousemagik.co.uk, I believe, or .com. I'm not 100% sure. And this is, as I said, her country garden mitts. So you have this section which is meant to look like a garden trellis, and then this section which are little cabled butterflies. And the yarn that I used for these is Dye Candy in the colourway codename Lavender. It's a DK weight yarn, and it's a merino nylon blend. But I'm really happy with how these came out. I think this colourway worked really nicely with this pattern and with the kind of country garden-esque theme. I need a better way to show off mitts because I feel like I'm kind of doing jazz hands. But yeah, one little finished object. And then I also finished my shorty socks that I was working on, these ones here. Now, if you remember, I was having a little bit of a problem when it came to yarn management, and my plan was to do what you can see on the screen. So to alternate the heels and the toes. And the idea was that this sock would have had this toe and this sock would have had this toe. But I had a little bit of issue with the amount of yarns that I had. So both socks have ended up with a completely different toe. But it's fine, and I'm quite happy with it. These two yarns, I've got absolutely no idea what they are. They were kind of large minis that were sent to me as part of a swap. But the toes are some leftover Nora George yarns in, I believe it's the Fleckle colourway. And I used this colour for the top part of my So Faded sweater. But yeah, I'm really pleased with them. They are fun. They were always planning to be odd socks. But yeah, just a nice, quick and easy pair of socks. Perfect for the spring and the summer. And really fun colours that made me happy, which is important at the moment, isn't it? So that is all my finished objects. Yeah, but that's not too bad, is it? 2 little finished objects this week. So work in progress wise, I have put a little bit of progress onto my Verso hat, which I believe I showed you last time. I didn't put a progress marker in, so I'm not 100% sure where I was last week, but I have made some progress. See if I can show you this. So here it is. And actually, do you know, that looks so good on the screen. I'm quite pleased with that. It's really hard to see when it's kind of bunched up on the needles how well the colour work is working. But yeah, I think that's working quite nicely with these 2 colours. So the colours I'm using for this are my yarn. It's Mistral is the blue one, and Hoarfrost is the lighter one. And as you can kind of see, I guess, yeah, I think you can see just there, it's not a completely white skein. It has got some little patches of kind of greens and little speckles of blues and blacks in there as well. But they are working together really, really well. I have just dropped stitches off the needles. Ooh, let's rescue those stitches quickly. That one's twisted. Oh, what have I done there? There we go. Split them, but I can sort that out later. As long as they're back on the needles, that's the important thing, isn't it? So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with this. These are the 2 colours. Mistral, as I said, and Hoarfrost. And these are both on my DK base. This is a merino, just 100% merino DK. It's quite a plump base, but I really like it. Makes great squidgy accessories. But I've been really enjoying this. Now, as you know, well, if you've watched the podcast before, I've mentioned it a number of times, I'm not a brilliant colour worker. This is probably the biggest colour work project that I have ever worked on. I think my first sort of real proper foray, successful foray into colour work was my Nemo gnome, this one up here. This is a pattern by Imagined Landscapes. She does all these gnomes, and this was her mystery knit along with the other two that are up on the shelf there. But yeah, this was my first kind of proper foray into colour work, and you can kind of see it's a little bit wibbly wobbly, and yeah, but there's no way I'm going to get him to stay standing up now. Oh no, and I'm knocking everything off. Whoops. But I found that really, really good as kind of an introduction to the colour work, if that makes sense, because it was quite a small scale, so it wasn't like really long rows of having to keep doing colour work. And I'm finding this hat pattern really good as well, because each row, the repeats are quite small, so you only have to kind of remember a small amount of repeat, and then that just goes all the way round. Does that make any sense? Hopefully it does. Anyway, the pattern, I haven't mentioned the pattern. The pattern is the Verso hat, which is a pattern by Bristol Ivy. And it's really, really fun. I'm knitting this as kind of a joining in with Gemma of the Little Grey Girl. She is hosting an isolation cowl, colourwork isolation cowl on Instagram. So that's kind of what I'm joining in with. But I'm really enjoying it, and I do need to put some more time into it. It's just one of those projects that I kind of need to be in the right brain space to sit and focus on it and not get interrupted by kids and that kind of thing, which, oh, I dropped another stitch there. I've just spotted. I need to go and pick that up before I lose it completely. Which I obviously at the moment is time like that is a little bit more of a challenge. I'm sure you're all finding that if you have children. Bear with me a second while I rescue some stitches. There we go. Right, rescued the dropped stitch on a progress keeper. I'm going to put this down now, and I'm going to sort it out later. Oh, dearie me. I also have a new cast on to share with you, which is living in this lovely bag, which is kind of a Christmas bag or a Halloween bag. It could be either. It is Nightmare Before Christmas, but it's making me happy, so I'm using it. I have cast on a pair of new socks. And I am using some commercial yarn that's been sitting in my stash for absolutely ages. So this is what I'm using. It is a Bergère de France Gumi 50 yarn. I really like this commercial sock yarn. It's just a really lovely yarn. I've knit my first ever pair of socks. I knit out of this in the Imprim Rose colourway. I've also knit Tom a pair of socks out of this in the Imprim Jaune colourway, I think. So the yellow colourway, although it's more of a lively green, but anyway. And this colourway is the Imprim, I'm not quite sure, is it CL? I think it's Sky colourway. Whoops, there we go. And I am knitting some patterned socks in this. So I am using the, oh, I bet I've not got this. Oh, yes, I have. Okay, I'm using the Sock Nest pattern, which is a pattern by Salapalooza Designs. And it's a really nice kind of, I'm just going to pop that onto the cable so I can show you a bit more easily. I've not got very far, so it's a little bit difficult to show you, but it's one of those lovely patterns that is relatively vanilla sock most of the way round, but then you just get this kind of section of patterning. In fact, I'm just thinking if I stick this on my sock blocker, you might be able to see that a little bit more clearly. There we go. So it's just got this lovely kind of lace and cable section just over these 12 stitches, and then on the other leg you obviously do that on the opposite side so that they're going down the outside of the foot. So yeah, not a lot of progress. I think I've done 2 full repeats of the pattern, but I just thought it would be a fun one that would work quite well with these socks. There's quite a chunk in this yarn, in this colourway, where you've got quite a chunk of white, so I wanted something with a little bit more interest in it than just plain socks, and I just think that pattern is actually going to work really, really well. I have been knitting these concurrently. This one has got the most progress, but I have done the cuff and I have just started on the first pattern repeat on the other one, but you can't really see much at the moment. I have also tried as much as possible to make them match, so hopefully they will match all the way down. Yeah, so that's my new cast on, and the pattern is actually relatively simple, so it is seeming to be one that I could knit around the kids, although I am quite tempted to cast on another pair of socks, just so that I've got the yarn all twisted, just so that I've got some vanilla socks on the go for while I'm doing kind of school activities and stuff with Arthur, or yeah, anything like that really. Yeah, so that is all the kind of on my needle stuff at the moment. I haven't made much progress on my blankets. I really need to add some more work into my Cozy Memories blanket, because I kind of got to the 91 squares needed for the first check-in of the SCR1TNO podcast square a day knit along that I'm kind of joining in with. And then I have kind of put it away. So I think I might only be on like 96 squares. So I've got quite a bit of catching up to do if I want to make the second quarter check-in on that. And Arthur's blanket, which I showed you some of the squares last week, I haven't actually bordered any of those yet. So I really need to. I have cast on a new project as well, which I haven't shared with you. I'll share with you next week. I've cast on a cardigan. I've cast on the campside cardie, which I believe is is Alicia Plummer. Anyway, I'll share it properly next week, but I just haven't made enough progress on it. I've done about 8 rows, so I haven't made enough progress to really share it with you for any interest yet this week. But I have caked up some more yarn, and I thought I would share those with you quickly now. So these are both kind of for socks, and yeah. This is the first yarn that I've caked up. This was a gift from a lovely friend of mine, who actually was my bridesmaid, which is quite appropriate considering that today's our anniversary. And this is a skein of Easy Knits, and it is their flash. It's the rainbow grey colourway. Oops, there we go. It's a merino nylon base. And yeah, so they are probably going to become a pair of vanilla socks. So that might be something that I could cast on relatively soon. Although I'm tempted with these to do vanilla socks, but maybe just do pearl stitches whenever the colour comes up. I think that would be quite interesting to see how that came out. So I might do that. And then the other yarn that I've caked up for some socks, I had a little caking party the other day when I had 10 minutes to sit while Tom was occupying the children. The other yarn I have caked up is this one here. So this is a skein of self-striping from the Yarn Badger. And it is her Campfire colourway, which again is a merino nylon, but this one also has stellina. So yeah, you can kind of see how sparkly that one is there. This is definitely going to be vanilla socks, because I do love vanilla socks for self-striping. I did contemplate caking this up into 2 separate balls so that I could knit them concurrently. And I might still do that. At the time I couldn't face, because I want them to match. So I would have had to have wound off this 50 grams and then wound off 50 grams twice to get them in the same direction. If that makes sense. So it just seemed a little bit time consuming. But I might still do that before I cast them on. I haven't decided yet. And I've also wound up, to go with this, I wound up this skein of yarn, this skein of it's kind of a reddy orange, and I'm going to use that for heels and toes to go with this, because the colours just match so perfectly. And that is a skein from Ellen at Mrs. Lamb's Yarns. She is an Aberdeen dyer. and it is in her sweet and sour colourway, and it is a bronze stellina in there. So it's a merino nylon but with a bronze stellina. I don't know how well the bronze stellina will come across on the screen, but it just seemed the perfect colour to go with that self-striping. So that is another potential cast on happening relatively soon. I need to work out how many sock needles I've got. Yeah, so that is all the knitting really, and all the potential knitting as well. As I said, I didn't have any yarny goodness this week, although I have hopefully got a couple of things coming in the post that I can share with you next week. One of which I'd completely forgotten about until I got the dispatch notification. And yeah, shop news, I guess. We will finish off with a little bit of shop news. Oh, I'm thirsty this morning. I don't know why. Oh, actually, I probably do know why. Tom made bacon sandwiches for breakfast. So, yeah, salty bacon is probably why I'm thirsty. So shop news wise, I don't have a shop update this weekend, but I am hoping to have a shop update next weekend. Again, it will be quite a small update. I think just for the time being, that's going to work best for me, just because it is proving quite difficult and quite stressful to manage both my children, dyeing yarn, and attempting to get Arthur, the older one, to do his homeschool work and the work that his teachers are setting for him. I found I've had a couple of really stressful days. I had one day where everything went well and I dyed yarn, but we didn't really do any school stuff with Arthur, but it was okay kind of managing the day wise. And then I've had other days where I've really focused on school stuff with Arthur, but I've not been doing any work and they've gone well. And then days where I try and juggle it all turn into a complete and utter nightmare. So I'm just needing to find a bit of a balance where I can do schoolwork some days and work myself other days, and it's just finding that balance basically. And then of course next week I've got the Nostalgia Club to dye up, so I won't be able to balance kind of extra stuff for the shop as well as dyeing up the clubs and getting those out on time. And yeah, it's all just a big balancing act at the moment, isn't it? And Tom is being as helpful as he can. I mean, he's obviously working pretty much full time. He is stopping early in the afternoon so that I can get some stuff done. But if I'm dyeing yarn, I still need to be downstairs in the kitchen, so I still get interrupted by the kids, you know, even if he tries his best to keep them out of the way. So it's very much a case of that's the time when I come upstairs and get other bits and pieces done in the office and pack orders and that kind of thing. But oh well. So yeah, so April I don't know what the date's meant to be. Is it April the 24th? What's it today? 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Is it maybe April the 25th? I don't know. Next Saturday. I will be having a little shop update at 8 o'clock. Hopefully there will be some more scrappy boxes because they were really, really popular. And I'm also restocking a few colourways, and I've re-dyed up some Sea of Adventure, which hasn't been in the shop for quite a while. So yeah, I'm hoping to get a few more bits and pieces dyed up next week alongside the Nostalgia Club. So there'll be a few bits and pieces. Yeah, that's kind of it shop news wise though, I guess. The next clubs will open on the 1st of May. They've just closed, and yeah, but the shop is fully stocked. I'll say that there is lots of stock in the shop. So if you're looking for anything, then have a little look and see what you can find. There's lots of DK in the shop at the moment. There's lots of merino nylon in the shop at the moment, and I will hopefully keep adding to it as and when I can. Anyway, I guess I will leave you there then for today. It's felt like a really, really short one, but I haven't had masses to show you, but I'm enjoying just the little weekly check-ins, and I hope you're enjoying them too. And I will see you again hopefully next week for another quick update and another quick podcast. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon. Bye.